Hi, I'm Bianca, and this is my science fair experiment. My experiment is on sugar's effect on flowering plants, and the purpose of this experiment is to see if sugar can prolong the life of cut flowering plants in regular vases. Plants need sugar to survive, but could sugar help a flowering plant that is cut? The basics of sugar in flowering plants will be needed. All plants make their own sugar using photosynthesis, and this sugar is called glucose. The sugar we use is a bit different than that of plants. Our sugar is known as sucrose, and it's taken from sugar canes, even though most people just call it white sugar. Everyone consumes a lot of it every day. Many foods contain their own natural sugar, but we add other sugars to make it taste better. Too many foods with enhanced sugars could lead to such problems as weight gain and diabetes. But sucrose has its good parts too. Sucrose is converted to blood glucose once inside us, and blood glucose is very important to the brain and to our lives. Now, the plant sugar glucose is their food. That is why plants are producers, not consumers, because they make their own food. They create glucose by taking in the sunlight with their leaves, combining it with water and carbon dioxide, using sugar. It is actually the energy stored in the sugar that helps plants live. The process of photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast, specifically using chlorophyll, which is a green pigment that absorbs the sunlight. Of course, this might not always be successful because nature could interfere. Plants use this sugar to survive and get energy. Now, learn some flowering plant basics. To cut a plant properly, several steps must be taken. First, when it's time to cut, always cut it at an angle with a sharp knife or even scissors. Don't cut with a dull knife because this could crush the stem. Cut them underwater to prevent air bubbles, which can block water movements throughout the flower. If the flowers are pick them early in the morning or late in the evening, because this is when bees are less likely to be found. Then, quickly put them into a bucket of cool water, especially in the summertime. If you are buying cut flowers, look for ones that are just starting to open, and don't buy any with yellowing petals because this means they've been in water for a long time. After you have cut your flowers, it is time to start caring for them. Make sure the vases are clean. Also, it is said that pennies are said to prolong the life of cut flowers, so if you want to include one in there, go for it. That's the lesson for today. To sum it up, plants create sugar using photosynthesis. We take these flowers to get our own sugar. To care for a cut plant, make sure the cut is at an angle and the vases are clean. This will help your flowering plants last longer. My hypothesis is that I believe that the right amount of easily available sugar, around 2 teaspoons, will help a cut flower live longer in a vase. My procedure. I bought 12 flowers from the florist, 4 gerbera, 4 roses, and 4 alstroemeria. I cut them to make them the same length, about 31 centimeters. I put them into cups of sink water with no soil, with about 320 milliliters each. All cups went on my sunny windowsill. After an hour or so, I added 0 teaspoons of sugar to cup 1, 1 teaspoon of sugar to cup 2, 2 teaspoons to cup 3, and 3 teaspoons to cup 4. I waited for about 5 days, filling the cups with water to the right amount each day if something evaporated. After 5 days, I saw which plants were alive and which perished. I had removed the wilted ones, and I continued to observe the living ones. Once all but one wilted, I checked to see which one is the lone survivor. This is a picture of the first cup after 5 days, which had no sugar. The alstroemeria and the rose were still thriving, but the gerbera had died. This is the second cup, which had 1 teaspoon of sugar. The rose thrived fine after 5 days, and the gerbera had bent over, but it was still colored. The alstroemeria had died. In this third cup, with 2 teaspoons of sugar, the gerbera is thriving just wonderfully, while the rose has bent over a little bit. The alstroemeria has wilted. In the fourth and final cup, which had 3 teaspoons of sugar, the rose was thriving after 5 days, while the other 2 flowers had died. In my graphs, I have recorded the growth of my cut flowers. The first one is the alstroemeria. It lived for 5 days with no sugar, but it wasn't so lucky with sugar. It lived less than 4 days with sugar water. The second one is the gerbera. It preferred 2 teaspoons of sugar, and I can tell this because it lived a week with 2 teaspoons of sugar and less with the other amounts. The last flower is the rose. It survived longer in general than the other 2 flowers. It lived an entire week with 2 teaspoons of sugar, then 6 days with 3 teaspoons of sugar. It lived 5 days with 1 teaspoon, and finally it survived 4 days with no sugar. In my table, I have recorded the 5-day survival of the flowers based on the sugar content. The Alstro survived 5 days with no sugar. The Gerbera survived 5 days with 2 and 3 teaspoons of sugar. Finally, the Rose, which seemed to thrive quite well on sugar, survived 5 days with 1, 2, and 3 teaspoons of sugar. I have done an experiment to find out if sugar helps the lifespan of cut flowers. My conclusion shows that each flower prefers a different amount of sugar. My hypothesis stated that I believe the right amount of sugar, about 2 teaspoons, will help a cut flower live longer. I was correct and incorrect at the same time. This is so because each flower preferred a different amount of sugar. The Gerbera and Rose thrived with 2 teaspoons of sugar, while the Alstroemeria was fond of clean water without any sugar. In summary, each and every flower likes differing amounts of sucrose, and there is no entirely correct, concrete answer to the question, does sugar prolong the life of cut flowering plants? I hope you liked my experiment and that you learned something useful from it. Thank you for watching.